D. Mace, Finnegan, and Donick 102.5 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you on a beautiful Tuesday in our fair city. Happy birthday, Mom. You're not listening, but I did say it. Happy birthday, Mom. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day. Are you counting on us
to pass that along,
yes.
Or David to pass that along to your mom?
Sure.
Okay.
David, clip that. I'll give you my mom's email address.
There you go.
Gotcha. Okay.
We got to make sure this is worthwhile. The message must get there.
I also sent her a card, which is very important to her. But now she gets a card and a shout out on the radio in the city she doesn't live in. So what a wonderful present from her son. Silence. Not impressed.
No,
none of you are.
No, I'm very impressed.
None of you are impressed.
You gotta look out for Mom.
Absolutely. She looked out for you for 20-something years. She
Meanwhile,
probably still look out for you.
She does. Meanwhile, Derek must be about to hibernate because of all this food that he has here.
Yeah, I have my
very healthy.
My turkey taco salad minus the lettuce. And then I got a bunch of apples. I had some apples that I've been in the refrigerator for a minute, so I had to cut them all up. And
how many apples?
It was like 3 apples.
Okay.
And I cut them in there. Then I have my drinks
and some cookies.
There we go. I'm across the board with my nutrition.
Well balanced.
Exactly.
Derek will be satiated. There's the word. Satiated today on the program. Thank you.
There you go. Where's the bell at?
I need the bell more near me too, so I can hit it a few times.
We do need to incorporate the bell a little bit more.
Yeah.
I hope you all are feeling a little bit better after venting with us yesterday following the Titans' loss at the Denver Broncos. We will continue that discussion today. Of course, Trevor Matich will join us in the 4 o'clock hour to give his thoughts on what we saw in Denver on Sunday. But just if you're watching the stream, just take a look at Derek Mason's face. Look at what the Tennessee Titans have done to Derek Mason. He's graying.
My hair is
Derek Mason is aging before our eyes.
Graying.
Because of the Tennessee Titans.
It's a damn shame. It's a damn shame. So,
but
come on, get it together, Titans. They will. I have faith in them.
You went back. I gave you a homework assignment. You were fired up yesterday about what you saw on the field on Sunday, specifically with Brian Callahan, in regards to Brian Callahan. And you said you wanted to watch the all-22 film. You wanted to digest all of it to make sure that you were giving him a fair shake. You have done that. We will get your review in just a matter of moments to see if you've changed your opinion on anything now that you've had the opportunity to watch all of the film. But I wanted to quickly start today on something interesting I saw on ESPN.com. ESPN.com came up clutch today. It just so happened that ESPN.com decided to publish an article looking at all of the looking at all of the coaches who call plays in the NFL, regardless of head coach, offensive coordinator, etc. And Willie, yesterday you said about Brian Callahan, he's a first-time head coach. He's a first-time play caller. Those are 2 very important, very difficult jobs. And you wondered aloud if Brian Callahan was cut for doing both. So I wanted to look at how many head coaches in the NFL call plays. And exactly half, 16 of 32 coaches, head coaches in the NFL call plays. Quickly, I'll run down the list. Mike McDaniel, Zach Taylor, Kevin Stefanski, Shane Steichen, Liam Cohen, Brian Callahan, Sean Payton, Andy Reid, Brian Schottenheimer, Ben Johnson, Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, Dave Canales, Kellen Moore, Sean McVay, and Kyle Shanahan. Those are the 16 head coaches in the NFL who also call plays.
My point yesterday was that it's obviously a trend now. It's why Brian Callahan was hired, really, but it was a leap of faith because he hadn't called plays, and he certainly hadn't been a head coach. And a lot of those guys are veteran coaches that called plays for a long time before they became head coaches. Fair to say?
Yes.
And some can do it. My question really is more specific to Callahan. He's young. He's got a lot on his plate. He's got a rookie quarterback. He's got a bad roster that is not his fault. I was just listening to a great discussion about the Patriots. Mike Vrabel is facing the same types of struggles in New England. They drafted horrendously for a long time, the Patriots. That's why they stink right now. It's hard to overcome it. So Brian Callahan is trying to overcome a bad roster, a rookie quarterback, and doing 2 full-time jobs. It would be hard for anybody to do, but it seems like some of the stuff that we take issue with, it becomes apparent on Sundays. It's just a theory of mine that I'm not sure he is a natural at calling plays and doing what you got to do to manage the game as a head coach.
I was looking at some of the younger/newer head coaches who also call plays in the NFL. So as we know, Brian Callahan did not call plays as offensive coordinator with the Cincinnati Bengals because Zach Taylor, the head coach, calls the plays. So here is a sample. Mike McDaniel in Miami, who's also under a lot of pressure now.
It's not going well. Like he's an offensive whiz, but I think he's taken a lot of criticism as a head coach.
According to ESPN, he called plays sparingly during his time as the Niners OC prior to his tenure in Miami because Kyle Shanahan calls the plays in San Francisco. Shane Steichen, entering his 3rd season calling plays in Indianapolis after previously doing so for 3 combined seasons with the Chargers and Eagles. So he had experience. Ben Johnson, new head coach of the Chicago Bears, spent 3 seasons as Detroit's OC. He called the plays. Dave Canales in Carolina, he called plays in Tampa Bay. Liam Cohen called plays in Tampa Bay last season, also called plays in college. So even some of the younger/newer coaches at least had some experience calling plays in the NFL and, in Cohen's case, in college. So I thought that was an interesting contrast as well.
Right. My point, D-Mace, is I think some people can do it. But the more we watch Brian Callahan, I think it's a fair question to ask. And he's got to self-evaluate. I know how much he wants to continue to do it. And I'm not sure what it would look like if he delegated the play calling to his offensive coordinator. But I think it's a fair thing to look at because they have not managed the game very well.
Well, if he delegates to his offensive coordinator, he might as well hand in his resignation papers.
Not if they win.
Because
not if they look better.
Even if he does that, it's like, well, we should hire him as our head coach, because that's what they initially hired him. They hired him because he was closely related to these people. Not that he called plays, because we know that he didn't, but he was closely related. He touched the garment of these individuals, so that made him, in their minds, after they talked with him, and I'm sure he's a great guy and they loved everything that he was saying, but what it boiled down to is that you touched the garment of several people that we love. So you know what? Or we think highly of. So you know what? Because you was in Cincinnati too, and the whole Joe Burrow, we're going to hire you because not only do we like what you're saying and your vision, we really like that you work closely with these individuals. That's what we really like. So if you then have to come back, I could see if they were winning last year, but there was still some, there was still some anxiety with him in regards of the whole, everything being such a, everything being on him. Maybe he delegates it out last year if they were going well. That is more acceptable. But when you haven't done well, and then the first game of the season, you make blunders that you shouldn't make as a second-year coach, you can't delegate those. You can't delegate them to nobody, because if you do, we might as well fire you and make him the interim coach.
Well, then the alternative, if he's going to,
and I'm not calling for that.
No, I agree. I'm not either. But he automatically, after one game, is on the hot seat because of what happened yesterday. Even in the national shows, right? They saw it. They did. It's not just locally. Sometimes
he has to get us. You know what? He has to get his team in order first, meaning the personal fouls. We had talked about Jeff today, but the personal fouls, and then all those other penalties, 13. He has to make sure he can get his team together first before he start giving away, his authority to call plays. Get your team together, and then once you get your team together and show that you are a good coach, it's better than to say, you know what, maybe all this ain't good for me. Maybe I'm going to delegate the offensive play calling during the game to you. But I've already proven that I got everything else handled. Right now, you don't have everything else handled.
I agree. And that, I feel like the locker room will feel that if it continues. You start to lose a little bit of the trust in that connection that you're supposed to have with your team. So I don't think he's going to give up the play calling, but I would spend a lot of time, if that's going to be the case, of buckling down on the game management stuff. It's got to be better. There's got to be somebody in his ear, better communication, whether it's from the press box to the sideline or somebody on the sideline with challenges, situations, both of which cost them yesterday. I don't know if it's Bones Fossil who came running down the sideline saying, kick it, kick it, kick it, with 6 seconds left. And I don't know if he had to talk him into it or not. I don't know if he was toying with throwing one pass or something like that. But these are the kind of things that they've got to be sharper. They've got to give themselves a chance. The good part of it is they were in the game. They had a chance to win the game, which a lot of people did not think they had a chance to do.
Willie, you gave me a homework assignment
I
today.
did.
Why don't you tell people what you wanted me to discover?
Well, the first thing I said yesterday on the show when we opened up is they had a chance to steal a game that they weren't supposed to win. And the biggest stat of the game was that they were +3 in turnovers. Now, they changed the stat right after the end of the game was over. I guess that's redundant. End of the game was over. After the end of the game. But the very last play from scrimmage, Cam Ward got hit as he threw. We all thought it was an incomplete pass. Nobody even cared. It was 4th down. It didn't matter. The game's over. They went back and tried to be fancy, and they called that a fumble. I don't really know why, but that aside, essentially, the Titans were +3. Officially, this won't be an official stat that we're about to give you because they were officially +2 in turnover margin. But really, they were +3. They had a chance to win the game because they turned the ball over. The special teams were fantastic. The defense was much better than we thought. When you are +3 in the NFL, you should win the game. That was my first statement yesterday on the show. I asked you to find the numbers of what percentage of the time do you think in the NFL, when you are +3, you win the game?
Here's what I did. I looked at all games when a team had a turnover differential of at least +3 since the year 2000. So 25 years. There were 1,274 examples of a team having a turnover differential of +3. The record, 1,179 wins, 92 losses, and 3 ties.
Is that good?
Which is a winning percentage of 92.5 over the past 25 years.
So if you are +3 in turnovers in the NFL, you win almost 93% of the time.
Correct.
And the Titans were essentially +3 yesterday, not officially. But that's where they gave that margin back over the course of the game. They're not as good a team as the Broncos, not right now. They're short on talent, but those other things that they did on the margins that hurt themselves, that's how the Broncos made up for it. Red zone, clock management, didn't challenge a 1st and 20 where they should have had a first down in plus territory, all of that stuff.
Wes in Clarksville on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHunted.com, asks, why did the Titans hire Brian Callahan to do both, meaning head coach and play caller, when he hasn't done it before? Would you hire a plumber that hasn't ever installed a toilet?
Well, that's a good question, D-Mace, because he was a sought-after guy.
If he stood next to Roto-Rooter, then yeah, I hire him. You're closely related to Roto-Rooter.
It's a fair question, but he was one of the top sought-after guys.
Yeah, it wasn't like the Titans
were the only team.
The Titans, it's not like the Titans were the only team. So there were a lot of teams, a few teams that were looking to, potentially make him their head coach. So, these are all the things that the Titans knew going in. But like I said, when he came in for the interview, he wowed him with other things. He wowed him on his vision and how he wanted to orchestrate this vision, and also that he was closely tied to these individuals. I'm sure he didn't necessarily, but those are things that come up when guys become the hot ticket on the market. Then it starts to come up. Well, who did you coach with? Who are you closely related to? Who did you, which quarterback did you, sort of spend, the most time with? In his situation, he has a lot of good guys and really good guys on his resume as far as how closely he worked with those. So that's what they looked at, and they hired him based upon all that.
I've said this before, but when the Titans hired Brian Callahan, the news release, as Derek mentioned all of the quarterbacks who Brian Callahan worked with in some capacity. Peyton Manning, right? Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, who, by the way, will be here on Sunday. And I have previously said that those set.
Can't leave Joe Burrow out.
Oh, of course, Joe Burrow. How could I forget Joe Burrow? Those names set up lofty expectations for Brian Callahan. And I understand that the Titans are trying to sell to their fans. Look at this coach who we hired. Look at all of the great quarterbacks he worked with. Look at the seasons those quarterbacks had working with him. But it backfired when Will Levis was a train wreck. And we saw the reaction that you all had yesterday after what Brian Callahan did in his year 2 debut against the Denver Broncos. But we will continue this conversation coming up next at 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I did say that Derek went back and watched the all 22 film of Titans Broncos. The question that I have for Derek, did anything he saw change his opinion on his analysis of Brian Callahan from yesterday? We will get that answer from Derek coming up next. 615-737-1025. This week's Nashville's best deal is Mellow Mushroom. Mellow Mushroom pizza is stone-baked with fresh ingredients, next-level imagination, and limitless options for customization. It's a higher order of pizza. You know and love Mellow Mushroom, so now you can get half off a $30 gift card while supplies last at theGameNashville.com/deals.
Derek Mason here, and if you injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Listen, the other insurance companies, they want to pay out as little as possible or frankly nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you, so they will help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's to support you at an event or they see you broken down on the side of the road, with Law Tigers, you'll never ride alone. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fuson, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
Later today on ESPN 94.9 The Fan, the Nashville Sounds take on Gwinnett at First Horizon Park. First pitch is at 6:35. Coverage is also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds Baseball on ESPN 94.9 The Fan is presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. By the way, our very own Big Joe Dubin will be serenading First Horizon Park with Take Me Out to the Ball Game tonight. So, extra incentive.
He's going Harry Carey style?
He did say on the Chase and Big Joe show he may go Harry Carey style.
I mean, why not?
If anybody can do it, it's Big Joe Dubin.
Joe can channel some Harry Carey, no doubt.
So
he'll do it right.
If you don't have plans for tonight, I suggest going to see Big Joe Dubin sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" at First Horizon Park. First pitch at 6:35. Let's get to your phones at 615-737-1025 before we get to Derek's All 22 review. Let's start with Trey on our phone line. Trey, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
What's going on, Trey?
Hey, I just wanted to say, man, that I don't think Coach has it. You know, he's been around, 2 seasons. He got, 3 wins? And I don't think Cam Ward is the answer because I seen J.J. McCarthy last night. He didn't play a lick of ball last year, and he was back there, boy, like a ballerina. And I don't know. I think we might win one game, but that's about it. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks,
How about that game last night, by the way? That was a very interesting game in the context of what we've been talking about. Play callers who are also the head coach. One guy looks like a genius right now. J.J. McCarthy looked lost for 3 quarters. Then all of a sudden, it looked like he's the man now. And Caleb Williams had some early, hey, looks like Caleb Williams might have made a jump. And then, whoops. I mean, you talk about needle scratching across the record. They had full control of that game, and you're like, whoa, what happened?
Let's go to Mike on our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com. Mike, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
My question is, how many times can you hit a receiver in the hands and them not catch it? I mean, I saw at least 5.
Thank you for the call, Mike. We will get to the receivers, specifically Calvin Ridley. That is on the docket.
I hit D-Mace with the theory yesterday, and this is something I want to watch going forward because it is only a hypothesis. A hypothesis.
There we go.
It has not been proven or disproven. But Cam Ward throws a hot pass. It is hot. And I want to see if this continues to be an issue because you could see it in the preseason. You could see it in the preseason scrimmages, the practices, the training camps. His ball is not Kenny Stabler soft. And that's a good thing in some ways. And the receivers do have to do a better job. I'm not excusing them. But I wonder, as we go forward, if we're going to be asking ourselves, is his ball just tougher to catch than it needs to be? Can he do anything to make that better? Or is it all on the receivers? D-Mace is putting it on the receivers. I'm just watching this week to week because I'm a little concerned about that because those were drops. Those were legit drops. But those balls were sizzling coming in, and they were not easy catches.
By the way, Mike, according to Pro Football Focus, which is not the end-all be-all, but they do track drops. They charged the Titans with 3 drops, 2 by Calvin Ridley, 1 by Alec Iamaner. You can argue there were more, but that's
right.
all that PFF gave the Titans.
3 drops by their standard, right? You could argue there were 5, and I would say probably there were a couple more that I would put in after watching the game again this morning of catchable. Catchable, where is Justin Jefferson catching it? Yes, Justin Jefferson is catching it. Is Alec Iamaner going to catch it? He didn't catch it yesterday. Calvin Ridley, he didn't catch a couple yesterday. Those were catchable, but this is what we're going to watch throughout the season.
So, Derek, yesterday, as I said, you were fired up about the Titans-Broncos game. You also said that you wanted to reserve judgment, complete and total judgment, until after you sat back and watched the all-22 film. So you have done that. Here's my question to you. Did anything you saw change your opinion on what you said about Brian Callahan and the Titans yesterday?
I don't think it necessarily changes it, but for this reason, because that sequence is still there. That sequence will always be
At
there.
the end of the first half.
At the end of the first half. That sequence will always be seared in everybody's brain, no matter what. Even if he starts to do well, somebody remember when he made it. That sequence of plays will always be seared in the minds of Titans fans, at least for the foreseeable future. So when I say he needs to help his quarterback, that's the issue. And I went back and looked at the elbow. They should have challenged it, but I don't think that was something he did that was necessarily, detrimental to the quarterback. I look at it as, what if he would have, thrown down a red flag in the booth, would have said, nope, it's not a catch. I mean, he could, but by the letter of the law, that is a catch, and you should have challenged it. But that's neither here nor there. Now, his explanation, he should have just said, hey, man, listen, I chose not to challenge it because I didn't think it was in. That's all he should have said. Nothing more. He didn't have to get into the weeds of it and all this other stuff. But the minute you say, I didn't know the rule, you open yourself up for backlash everywhere. Just say, I didn't want to challenge it. I didn't think he was in. We had to get going. You didn't even have to bring up the rule. He didn't get in, point blank. So we move from that. That sequence will always be seared in my brain, because that was not helping your quarterback. That was not helping your offense. And it damn sure wasn't helping your team. Not one bit, because what happened after that really cost you the game. It really did. It put you in a different position at the end of the game where you had to throw the football rather than, try to take up some more time and run the clock and just run your offense. So that play or that sequence of plays hurt your team. So that will always be there. But when I went back and I looked at the game, they just got to do better. The players across the board, there were two. When I was playing, we graded by minus and plus and minuses. No, you did halfway good. No. It was plus, minus. And then once we watched the film, it's like, okay, you could have did this better or this better. There were too many minuses across the board for everybody, whether it's not blocking the guy right, not getting the guy at all, running the wrong route, missing the guy on a deep route. All these things were minuses. And when your team is behind the 8 ball already, you can't have all those minuses across the board. One play is this guy, another play is this guy, another play is this guy. At the end of the game, you end up with 30 minuses, and they hurt you. This is what coaches talk about. I'm telling you, I've been in those rooms. It's a combination of everything that causes us to lose the game at the end. Not one play necessarily, but that series. To me, it wasn't just one place. It was a series by Callahan that I think really hurt his team and hurt him bad. But all these guys, from Calvin Ridley to Zeitler to Moore to Chig, all of them, y'all got too many minuses. They got to fix it. You can't have minuses like that and have a rookie quarterback underneath center. And then Cam, his eyes has to get quicker. That's the one thing that I do believe needs to happen. Because there were several situations, and maybe the offensive line getting pushed into him from the left side a little bit probably caused him to look down instead of look up as the game went later. You didn't kind of see him in his demeanor coming off the field, but you just wonder. There were several times where I thought Cam sort of drifted out of the pocket a little bit too soon. Or he felt the rush from the other side, especially on that it was trips. It was at the goal line. It was trips left, and he rolled to the left. The tackle didn't do a good enough job. He nor the running back did a good enough job at sealing that defensive end. But even with that, because the rush came from the opposite side, Gunnar Helm didn't do a good job at sustaining his block. I don't know why, but if he keeps his eyes on that side, Jefferson comes open. That part. Cam has to get better at that. And then he and Alec Eilmanor, they're gonna have a good combination down the field. Why? Because Alec Eilmanor beats his guy. He beat his guy twice Sunday. And Cam threw the ball too short, or he threw it too far out of bounds. Those two guys, once they figure it out, because Io Manor, with his big body and his speed, he can get on top of defenders. Once they figure that out, they're going to get that together. They're going to be a 1-2 combination down the field more than what we think. But he has to get it right. When you have 30 minuses across the board, you ain't going to win no game, period.
Willie.
And that was just on offense.
Derek mentioned that play. Derek mentioned that play for Van Jefferson. Ben Solak of ESPN.com does a weekly column, and part of his column was grading the new quarterbacks in new places. He included Cam Ward. He mentioned that play. He said, quote, inexcusable consecutive sacks in the fourth quarter knocked Tennessee at a field goal range in a 1-point game, and both were avoidable if Ward had thrown the ball away or played with more urgency. Ward also left 7 points on the table in the red zone when wide receiver Van Jefferson got open as expected on a pseudo rub route, but Ward already had dropped his eyes and entered scramble mode. The play is designed for Jefferson, and the ball should have been thrown.
It was a sprint to the left. You've got three options, and Jefferson's defender stumbles for a second. So it would have been a fairly easy throw, and he did feel an unblocked blitzer rusher, edge rusher coming from the opposite side. It's when he froze. It looked like he was going to maybe look back towards Gunnar Helm on the far side. But if he waits an extra half second, takes one more step, he can deliver that ball on time. It should be a touchdown. I even thought that Ridley coming back across as the third option
in the back
over
side.
the middle in the back of the end zone was open as well. He may not have had time. It would have to take a tougher throw to do that. But if he just hangs in there, these are the things hopefully he will start to see.
It's hard. He needs to see that quicker, and he need to anticipate it. And I wrote that down as a word for him too. Anticipate it a little bit quicker, because that's what rookie quarterbacks have a hard time anticipating things, because coming out of college, everything is so wide open. They got to anticipate. But it's not only so. We had a minus by Cam, so that's one minus on that one play. One minus. Then you got a minus by Gunnar Helm. He doesn't hold his block, and then you got two. I
don't think he touched the guy.
Yeah, but he has to hold him. You have another minus by Pollard. I think Pollard was in. Do you have another minus by the left tackle? So Cam can't get out. He can't get outside of the tackle when the tackle and the running back, who are on a combination block, can't hold up the end. So you had 4 minuses. Well, 3 outside of the quarterback. You had 3 minuses on a play. Then you had the quarterback in. That's 4. How do you expect the play to work when you have 4 minuses, people?
Not against the Denver defense.
Not against the Denver defense. No, you can't have that. I could see if you had 2 minuses, and the 2 was potentially Gunnar Helm. Let's just say the 2 minuses were the running back and the left tackle. If he doesn't feel this backside guy coming, he may stick with the play. Yeah. Or let's just say the minus was Gunnar Helm. Well, if the 2 guys edge, if they cut off the tackle, if the tackle and the running back sets the edge on that end, Cam can get around it, and he can see Jefferson come open like he did. But none of that happened. So what happens? You take a sack, and then you end up kicking a field goal.
That was the 3rd and goal from inside the 10, where they were ahead. No, it was 3-3. I think that would have been a 10-3 instead of having to kick the field goal. So there were a lot of swing plays like that. And remember, we're holding them to a high standard. That's a tough team, a great defense, and a tough hornet's nest of an environment. So if they can get better, this will look all right. But these are the types of things that they have to improve on.
615-737-1025. We will take your reaction as we look back on Titans Broncos from Sunday and look ahead to Rams and Titans this Sunday. 615-737-1025. Also, we do have a pair of tickets to give away. We're not doing it right now. We will do it at the end of the next segment. So if you want to win a pair of tickets to see Papa Roach at the First Bank Amphitheater on Wednesday, October 1st, be listening at the end of next segment for the cue to call, and you can win those tickets. But coming up next, let's talk about Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley had a disappointing performance at Denver. What must he do to step up next week and beyond? We will discuss that, especially with Derek. Coming up next, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 102.5 The Game.
That's fine.
We know you have a lot of confidence in Ridge. Is there anything you say to him after a tough game, or do you kind of just trust him to know what to do after that?
He a vet. He knows what to do, but I just continue to tell him keep playing the game. I'd have a great game. I gotta tell myself keep playing the game as long as the O-line and the running back. So we had the ball down 8 with a minute to go. We was damn near midfield. We didn't capitalize. So defense, that gave us opportunity to win the game. We didn't get the job done. So everybody on the offense, we all accountable for our actions. And so we just gonna watch the film, get better off of it, try to win.
All of the things Tennessee Titans fans were feeling
What was
on
that
Sunday.
lyric there? Oh,
I can't
Papa
say it
Roach?
on air.
Yeah.
That is Papa Roach, and you can win tickets to see Papa Roach at the end of the segment. So listen to the cue to call. I'm sure a lot of Titans fans were feeling this way early Sunday evening.
Just ready to smash some stuff.
Yes. Suffocation, no breathing. Don't give an F. So on and so forth. I can't do it justice when I can't use all of the curse words. But nevertheless, let's talk about Calvin Ridley, because that is who Cam Ward was talking about at the beginning of that clip. Now, of course, keep in mind that Ridley was shadowed all over the field by the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Patrick Surtain. Is it Surtain or Surtain?
They always called his dad Surtain, didn't they?
Yes, called his dad Patrick Surtain.
But it seems like most people are going Surtain. It's like Brad Marchand, Brad Marchand.
Right. Tomato, Surtain. It doesn't matter as much anymore because the Broncos game is in the past. But Ridley was shadowed all over the field by Surtain, who was targeted only once and did not allow a catch as the nearest defender on his 34 coverage snaps. So keep that in mind. But Calvin Ridley ended up with 4 catches on 8 targets for 27 yards, and according to Pro Football Focus, dropped 2 passes. Derek has emphasized the importance of a rookie quarterback having a reliable number one wide receiver. Now, y'all can argue on whether Calvin Ridley is actually a number 1 receiver in the NFL. That is a valid argument to have, but he is the number 1 receiver on the Tennessee Titans. So that's who Cam Ward has to work with. So, Derek, how can Calvin Ridley rebound from his disappointing performance at Denver? And how much confidence do you have that Calvin Ridley can be that trustworthy number 1 wide receiver that rookie quarterbacks desperately need?
I think he can be, but man, he didn't start off on the right foot. I tell you that. He had far too many. I'm saying far too many because when you are a number 1 guy playing with a rookie quarterback, 3 or 4 is far too many, and I thought, me watching it, he had 3 or 4 or even 5 miscues, whether it be drops, running the wrong route, stuff like that. But there were opportunities where I thought if Cam just, made his eyes a little quicker, he could have hit, or I had an opportunity to hit Calvin Ridley on 1 or 2 that could have been potentially big plays. But I'm just going by, what I saw. He needs to be better. He understands that. You can't, we can question whether the seam route was a drop or not, but there were 2 other passes that I thought you should have caught, one late in the game, and I think one was in the middle of the game, right before half or right after half. They were backed up, and Cam ran Ridley ran a in route, and Cam, better than any other play Sunday, anticipated it. In the minute Calvin Ridley came in that hole, he fired it. As soon as he cleared that back row or that defensive back, whoever was underneath it, because he had the safety barreling down, he threw it, and it hit him. I think it hit him in the chest by the angle. I couldn't really see whether it hit him in the hands or in the chest, but it was a drop. That would have been a 15-yard gain, at least 14 to 15-yard gain. Those are things that you got to do as a number 1 guy. You got to make those catches, man. Again, he's had far too many drops, like just flat out drops in my mind. He's had far too many flat out drops in the last 2 years. Now, He didn't get targeted in that one game last year, and he had a few drops in that one game, and then the next game, he came out and he was on fire. So maybe this is that game of last year. Maybe it was against Denver, and you didn't see that last year from Calvin Ridley. After that game, after he had that really bad game, he came back and he played consistent from that point out. I hope this was his bad game. I hope it was, because from here on out, his young quarterback is going to need him to make more plays than not. Those 50-50 plays, he's going to have to make more of those than I think he's ever made in his career. Why? Because he's playing with a rookie quarterback. And it's not something that I don't think he can do. I mean, I don't think he can't do it. I think he can. I think he can go out there and make those 50-50 catches. But he has to prove to the young guy that he can do it, because if he continues to drop passes, now you limit the offense and what they can do from this standpoint. Now the quarterback hesitates when he get ready to throw you the ball, because he doesn't know if you're going to catch it or not, and they don't have much behind you other than some rookies and some other guys that don't have a lot of catches in this league. So if you can't get it right, Calvin Ridley, you're hurting your quarterback as well. That's all I'm saying. He can get better moving forward. I know he can, because I saw it last year. But he can't have too many of these games where he's not knowing what to do when a quarterback's about to throw it to you, or you dropping what I call 3 legitimate drops. The one down the middle of the field, I call that a drop too, but people are, that's not a drop. But there were 2 others that hit him in the hands or hit him in the chest, and he dropped it.
I'm working on this theory as well, Adam. I'll give you a Predators cross reference. You tell me if you think there is a parallel here. Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson, right? I think are a little bit like Calvin Ridley in that paid to be a number 1 center, paid to be a number 1 wide receiver, but not quite good enough. I mean, even though they're talented, not quite the right guy to be the leader, a lead dog on this team. You like to talk about dogs, D-Mace, right? I just see Calvin Ridley he's just short of that. I think if in a perfect world, instead of being a high-paid number 1 who's not quite a number 1, if they can find another true number 1 in the next year or 2, and maybe Calvin Ridley's still got enough in the tank to help them, that would be a better role for him. We saw what Matt Duchene did in Dallas on a team where he was surrounded by more good players, and there was some pressure off of him, and he was in the right role for him. I see Ridley like critical. You talked about miscues, right? It's not just drops, it's miscues. The play at the end of the half, yeah, it's a bad call and everything, but if he executes the play, we may not have been talking about as much of it. We might have been saying, boy, that was risky to try to come out of your own end zone. But who knows? If you block that up, you got 2 blockers against 2 defenders, and then if he catches the ball in space, the play is designed for him to beat 1 guy, and maybe you get out of trouble and you at least get out of the half. I don't know, but he had a mental mistake there. They both clearly looked right at him and said, that was supposed to be you.
But another one, stop the clock. You stop the clock because he has to dirt the ball.
Right. Well, here's another example of what I'm talking about. He catches one early 4th quarter. He is running to the sticks. He makes a nice move to get loose. He needs 1 yard to move the sticks, and he just can't quite get there. Right? That's going to happen. So, but like the number 1 guy, it feels like more often than not, he finds a way to get to the sticks there. So I try this is what I try to put in context with their roster right now. He's just not really a number 1 guy. He is their best receiver, but he's not a true number 1. So I try to temper my expectations, but they have to try to get the most out of him in the meantime.
I think your Ryan Johansson, Matt Duchene comparison is apt. The one word I always used to describe Matt Duchene in the role the Predators had him in, the one word I always used was miscast. Matt Duchene was miscast as a number 1 center, top line forward for the Predators. You mentioned the Dallas Stars. He's a secondary player on that team. It's the perfect role for him, and he's thrived in Dallas. And I'm wondering if Calvin Ridley is miscast as a number one wide receiver. He's paid like a number one wide receiver or around that range of a number one wide receiver. But on a deeper team, he's probably not a number one wide receiver. But as I said earlier, he's what the Titans have as a number one wide receiver. Let's go to Howie on our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com. Howie, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
My pleasure. Good afternoon, fellas. You know, I'm so glad you're bringing up Calvin Ridley. I think about the awesome Marvel film by called The Black Panther, where basically Killmonger yells, "Is this your king? Is this your king?" Because I think that's the question. He's our number one, but we have questions about that. And fans are. I have a question for all of you, but for first, this one thought. Fans are really emotionally wanting, it sounds like, Brian Callahan to be fired after the first game. But when we look at the tape, we see these drops, right? We see Calvin Ridley making at least 2 drops that he should have made. And we see Cam Ward coaching him up to run his routes better. So my question is, for all 3 of you, and Derek, if you'd like to answer, you can. Who's really at fault for this? Is it a head coaching fault of the offensive coordinator for a number one receiver, quote unquote, and position issues by the receivers that cost the game, in my opinion? Or is this really just the receivers and maybe the position coach that coaches them? Because I think we need to better identify the problem here instead of just kind of trying to drag Brian Callahan out.
Thank you for the call, Howie. Derek, quickly, why don't you take a stab at Howie's question?
It's a little bit of everyone, but more importantly, I think it's Calvin Ridley he has to step up and be the number one guy that they have paid him to be, and I think he can do it. Until these young guys, get up to speed, then he's gonna have to be the guy that the passing game is ran through. He's gonna have to be the guy that Cam trusts the most. So when there's miscues in a game, and there's going to be, I'm not sitting here and say, oh, all the receivers go and don't mess up in the game. They do, but you got to go back and you got to correct and you got to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's why I said, he got his bad game out of his system for the year. And I expect for him to have more big plays than negative plays moving forward. So it's on everybody. That's why football is the ultimate team sport. It is, because everybody has to work in unison. They do, because if you have too many minus plays on a play, the play is not going to be successful. And the Titans had too many of those on their not successful plays.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your thoughts on Calvin Ridley. Coming up next, we'll also discuss Jeffrey Simmons, because I think we saw both the good and the bad of Jeffrey Simmons in Denver on Sunday. We'll discuss that coming up next. Also, I did tell you that if you want to win a pair of tickets to see Papa Roach at First Bank Amphitheater on Wednesday, October 1st, your time to call is right now. So be caller number 2 at 615-737-1025, and you will win a pair of tickets to see Papa Roach at the First Bank Amphitheater on Wednesday, October 1st. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen, 1025 The Game. D. Mace, Fingan, and Donick 1025 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Trevor Matich will join us in roughly 20 minutes as we continue breaking down the fallout from the Titans' Week 1 loss to the Denver Broncos. The Titans host the LA Rams at Nissan Stadium on Sunday in Week 2. We were just talking about Calvin Ridley. I want to move on to Jeffrey Simmons. We did not get to Jeffrey Simmons yesterday. We spent most of yesterday talking about Brian Callahan, and we'll continue to talk about Brian Callahan. We're not moving away from that. But let's talk about Jeffrey Simmons in Denver, because I thought that performance by Jeffrey Simmons was both the good and the bad. According to the NFL, Jeffrey Simmons generated 4 pressures, including a strip sack, forcing multiple turnovers on his pressures for the first time in his career. Simmons generated as many pressures as the rest of the Titans pass rushers combined, also 4. So Jeffrey Simmons had one of the best games of his career in terms of getting to the quarterback, according to the NFL. At the same time, he committed a neutral zone infraction early in the game that led to a Broncos first down on 3rd and 5. And then, of course, the play near the end of the game, the unnecessary roughness on 3rd and 10 late in the fourth quarter. Cody Barton had wrapped up Marvin Mims for a loss. Simmons runs in, pushes Barton. I believe he pushed Barton, right?
Yeah.
Then,
I think he had one of his hands on the ball carrier.
Right. Either way, called for unnecessary roughness. So I think that's both the good and the bad of Jeffrey Simmons. And we also do have, and we'll get to this in just a second, we do have a clip from Jeffrey Simmons after the game on the penalties, because he did take accountability. We'll play that in just a moment. But Willie, what did you make of Simmons' performance in Denver? Because again, in terms of pressuring and rushing the quarterback, you could argue this was one of his best games, but you also have to factor in the penalties as well.
Right. I don't think they're in the game if he is not playing as well, because as you said, he was directly responsible for one of the turnovers and indirectly responsible for another when he disrupted the pass that got intercepted. I thought he was playing spectacular. He was playing tremendous. All of the stuff that we talked about, he's lost weight, he's quicker. I thought they set him up. I could see what Denard Wilson was talking about within the scheme. It really looked like a great fit. And I'm thinking to myself, if I'm watching, they still don't have Tavondre Sweat at full strength. You know, Sneed's on the pitch count. If they could keep him out there a little more, you can see the makings of something. They're like, okay, this is what it's supposed to look like. So he was spectacular. But then just the enormous mental mistake at the end of the game. I couldn't believe it was like the bad dream in slow motion. We're like, no, don't do it. And he did it. Like it's the key word is unnecessary. It wasn't that much, but they're going to call that every time. And I cannot believe he did that.
Let's go to Jeffrey Simmons after the game discussing the penalties and more from the Titans' loss in Denver.
Yeah, that's his frustrating part. Not even turnovers. We have 4 on defense, but still penalties, man. Like, myself, don't hurt the team. And the penalties I had could have been avoided. Cody had them wrapped up. It's just dumb. No excuses for that. I take full accountability to that. And even with all the freaking penalties we had, we still was in this game. We had a chance. But, when you have, over 150, I think it was like 150 in penalties? 130. 130, that's terrible. And, you'll never win a game like that, especially on the road. That's a good football team. But at the end of the day, man, we have to clean that up. Like I said, that's the most disappointing thing, especially coming out of this game, was the penalties. Is that the biggest thing?
That was Jeffrey Simmons after the game. Derek, your thoughts on his performance at Denver?
He played a hell of a game. If you take away the last play, I don't even consider the neutral zone. It got in. Stuff like that usually doesn't get called unless the offensive lineman moves, or if he touches you, or you touch the offensive lineman. Typically, you do that and they allow you to get back. they act as if, I don't know, because the offensive line reached and pointed, they called that potentially a false start on the offensive lineman. I don't think they would have called that a false start had he just pointed and been directing his offensive line. I don't believe they would have called that a false start. But to not give Simmons an opportunity to get back across the line of scrimmage, where it's clearly the offensive lineman didn't touch him and the ball wasn't hiked, I thought that was a little petty, and I'm pretty sure that Brian Callahan thought it was petty as well. So that one, I don't. That one to me is sort of, in the big scheme of things, that's like a needle in a haystack to me.
May I just say that one of my low-key favorite things about watching football is when somebody jumps offside and players on both teams are pointing at the other players.
Yeah,
it was
they
them.
don't want to be wrong. They don't want to be wrong. So
it just reminds me about being on the playground almost.
No, he did. I did. No, now the last one. Listen, Jeff. That is just something you cannot. He understands it. So it's like me sitting here and sort of going in just to be going in makes no damn sense to me. But he knows better, and he can't have that. Again, I go back to what I said early on in the show. When you have 1, 2, 3, 4 minus plays on a play, 9 times out of 10 it ain't gonna work. And then not let alone have a minus play on a play that worked and the play was over with, and then your minus because it becomes even bigger of an issue because now you've given them an extra first down in a game where you're trying to get the ball back because you're only down a few points. You're down 1 possession. So to me, those are the things that Jeff cannot do moving forward. He knows that. I know that. The city of Nashville know it. I mean, the state of Tennessee know it. Whoever loves the Tennessee Titans, they know. If they are going to win, especially on defense, you can't have bonehead plays like that. And Jeff knows that was a bonehead play. Don't do dumb, to hurt the team, and that hurt the team. Jeff knows it, so
the play
I'm done.
Was over.
Yeah, it was over. He knows it.
Pushing him back 10 yards. That you want him to release him and let him, but then it would be a 15 or 20-yard loss. Like, don't even go near there. That wasn't it. I would have liked. I don't know that they would have scored, but I would have liked to have seen Cam Ward have a little more chance in a 2-minute drill to have time to work with the defense. I think the defense would have declared a really, really good performance. Mm-hmm. I hated that they gave up the 50-yard run, but you're nitpicking, right? You're not going to play perfect. They're not the steel curtain.
They got worn down toward the end. Yeah, I get it.
But they're going to come up with a big stop to get their team the ball back with plenty of time to work with and go down and see if you can have make something happen. You could put pressure on them, right? They would start to feel the pressure if you could move the ball a little bit, but you let them basically milk the clock.
A couple of texters point out that Jeffrey Simmons, quoting Mike Vrabel, don't do dumb blank to hurt the team in that clip. One texter says, Simmons gave a first down to Denver in the red zone, and it was on a 3rd down. Shocked you're just accepting that as okay.
No, I'm not accepting it as, again, I'm just because I'm not screaming and yelling and going in on Jeff.
It was 3rd and 5.
Yeah, and they had stopped them, and they were getting ready to either kick a field goal or punt. Either way, they would have won. You would have had an opportunity to have the ball. So just because I am not sitting here going in and screaming and yelling doesn't mean I am not highly disappointed at Jeffrey Simmons and what he cost this team at that particular moment. It's just like a kid. You don't have to yell at kids to get them to understand and know that you're disappointed in what they did. So Jeff's the same way. Ain't no need of me sitting here yelling and screaming. Ain't no need for coach to yell and scream. Jeff knows that if this team is going to win, it's going to be by the margins, okay, in between the margins. And this game is a matter of inches. Well, Jeff, on that play, you gave them 15 yards. I don't know what that equates to in inches, but you gave them 15 yards, free 15 yards, and he knows it. So what else do y'all want me to say? I don't know.
One texter, Ben, says, if the season stays pathetic, Jeffrey Simmons will be worth a 1st rounder if he keeps this up. I mean,
he's playing damn good. I tell you that. He's
not lying, Willie.
He's playing damn good, man. I tell you that, boy. That first half was that's the Jeffrey Simmons that I thought we were going to be getting after that one great year he had. So hopefully he can give us 6, 17, 16 more. If he does that, then the defense will be one of the top defenses in the National Football League.
I saw a scheme that looked like guys were on the same page. I thought they tackled really well. I thought they had an understanding of what Denver was trying to do. When a guy caught the ball in the flat, there was a guy on him. They made the tackle. They were asked to do a lot because the offense just didn't keep the ball very much. But I'm very optimistic about Denard Wilson as a coordinator, and he gets to match another great, proven offensive mind, Super Bowl winning offensive mind next week in McVay. But I thought he won the chess match against the Broncos offense and Sean Payton on Sunday with limited personnel, right? But his best guy was a beast. That helps a lot. It makes everybody else better. That's the kind of stuff that you're looking for.
But your best guy can't hurt you either.
Right. And so he messed it up with one play.
So then, and you look at Devondre Sweat. I mean, he did the best he could. I thought he played a good game, but had he been practicing and had not had the minor surgery, then I think they would have got a better showing from Devondre Sweat in that situation.
But you still see the capability.
I still see it. Absolutely. You still see it. He's a force, and he wasn't even 100% yesterday. He's a force, and he's going to continue to be a force. And Jeffrey Simmons is going to continue to be a force, minus those bonehead plays. We can't have any more of those. If we have more of those, then maybe I'll raise my voice, Texter, if we continue to have those this season. But until then, that one, it cost us. But hey, listen, in the big scheme of things, what I saw from Jeffrey yesterday, Sunday, was what I want to see for 16 more games.
Devondre Sweat played 40.8% of the snaps on Sunday. Last season, he played roughly 2/3 of the snaps. How much more do you think we see Devondre Sweat against the Rams?
I think what'd you say? He played 40%?
He played 40.8% against the Broncos.
He'll play about 60%.
So he'll be closer to his average.
Depending on what the Rams do from an offensive scheme standpoint, I would tend to believe he'll be closer to the number he was at last year than what he was this past game.
You think so too, Willie?
I think that's possible. I still am concerned that he still is not going to be himself for another few weeks. I think it's going to take a while for him to really feel good and get his weight back up and be at game speed the way he can play. Because I just think he missed so much time. He lost weight. That's just a tough thing. It takes time.
The same texter who asked the question, well, it was more of a statement that we were just discussing, also just said, I threw my Simmons jersey in the stands in Denver. I'm over him. That one play. Keep in mind the great he did. That one play. Apparently, that jersey is trash now.
Well, man, you paid for the jersey, and then you're going to have to go buy another jersey or somebody else. I don't know.
Dustin in Hopkinsville.
Maybe that wasn't.
Dustin in Hopkinsville says, I have to clean this up because, Dustin, you've got a potty mouth in this text, so I'm going to have to clean it up. The one thing Big Jeff did right this offseason, he said, F it. F team ball. He says, I'm an eat. I guess I'm going to eat.
I'm going to eat. Yeah. Basically.
Lost 20 pounds of fat. He's focused on his game. Who knows who the Titans are? He knows who the Titans are. He's not much of a leader, but the boy can play ball. That's what he needs to focus on.
Well, that's what he is focusing on. Playing good football.
Language, Dustin.
Getting back to being that Jeffrey Simmons that afforded him that contract that he has. Listen, I think Jeff wants to be a leader. I'm not going to sit here and say, question the leadership. Y'all can do that. Jeff wants to be a leader. He has to prove it to people consistently. But leaders can't have those, brain farts that you had, on the defense, especially at a critical time. I played with some great defensive guys. And guys that were considered leaders, guys that are Hall of Fame guys. And that didn't happen, especially not in critical moments. They found a way to keep their cool in the midst of what's going on. Because, listen, I'm not a defensive lineman, and I know the trenches can get down and dirty. So the mentality has to be such as. So I get that part. But, Jeff, the great ones, and you want to be great. And I don't think there's anything that's stopping you from being great. But the great ones don't, especially in key situations, the great ones don't do that. They don't do that. They find other ways to get their aggression out.
615-737-1025. We will take your thoughts on Jeffrey Simmons' performance on Sunday at Denver. We've also talked about Calvin Ridley, Brian Callahan. Anything is on the table Titans related. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, Trevor Matich will join us, and we'll get his thoughts on what he saw in Denver on Sunday. Trevor Matich coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you, joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by Trevor Matich, who is also brought to you by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. So, Trevor, the big talking point after the game on Sunday, Titans lose 20-12 to the Denver Broncos, was Brian Callahan, namely some of the decisions he made, and then him admitting after the game that he didn't quite know the rule about Eligaya Manor catching the ball, his elbow appearing to land in bounds. We took a lot of calls and texts about that. But I want your perspective as a player. As a player, would your faith be shaken in your head coach based on the decisions Brian Callahan made on Sunday?
Yes, absolutely would. As a player, and you know this, D. Mace, I mean, the difference between winning and losing an NFL game often comes down to just one or two or three plays, and that's it. So you go through all that effort, have all those plays that you just fight tooth and nail, and you're getting hit in the mouth, and you're hitting them in the mouth, and you're hurting, and you're fighting to make a difference on their coaches and can say they're putting me in position that if I do my part, we're going to win, or at least we have a good chance to win. That's good. That's what you want. If you are a player and you look at your coaches and you think, no matter how hard I play, I have to overcome not just the opponent, but some dumb decisions by my coaches, then you lose faith pretty quickly. And so Brian Callahan has a lot of making up to do, in my opinion. That's how I would feel. I haven't talked to anybody inside the locker room on the Titans, but that's how I would feel. And just, you talk about that Iowa Manor catch that was ruled out of bounds, and the Callahan did not throw the red flag to challenge it. And the thing is, afterwards, he said that he didn't, that he explained why he didn't throw the challenge flag, and then realized that he was wrong on his interpretation of the rule, and he should have thrown the challenge flag. In other words, even though Iowa Manor's elbow touched in bounds before he went out of bounds after he secured the ball, Coach Callahan said that he thought that he also had to have 1 foot down with that elbow in order for it to be a catch, and that's not the rule. The rule is you either have 2 feet or any body part except your hand. So if it's an elbow, a knee, a hip, that all equals 2 feet, even if your feet don't touch the ground at all, right? Well, the fact that he didn't know that means that he didn't throw that challenge flag, and then that was a critical moment in the play, and who knows, but that might not have led to a score that would have made a difference in the game. And the fact that he didn't know that is bad. The fact that he admitted publicly he didn't know that might be almost as bad. But also you have to look at it from a standpoint of the circumstance in the game, because there's a coach in the booth that looks at those replays and then calls down to the sideline and says, yeah, throw the flag or don't throw the flag. And my understanding, based on what Coach Callahan said afterwards, was that he got a call from the booth that said, nah, it's not good. You're not going to win it. Just move on. Not worth challenging it. Well, if he got a call like that from the booth and said, it's not going to work, it's not a catch, don't challenge it, and he doesn't challenge it, is he supposed to debate it with that guy? Is he supposed to argue with him? Well, wait a minute now. Tell me Callahan should have known the rule, and he should have asked, why is it out of bounds, and et cetera. So that's all bad. But he also got a bad call from the booth, apparently. And that guy's job is to inform the coach what he ought to do. And if that call came down and said, coach, his elbow was down, it's a good catch, throw the flag, he would have thrown it. And so, it was a complete failure of the entire system of whether or not to challenge. But ultimately, it's Coach Callahan as the head coach that has to know the rule. He didn't. He admitted he didn't. It's Coach Callahan that has to take the responsibility for the whole thing, which he did. But if I'm a player, I'm looking at that saying that's just one of several things in the game that my coach didn't give me a chance to win. And if you're out, Iowa Manor, how do you feel about it that you made a spectacular play against tight pressure coverage to get that elbow down, and you don't get credit for it? It's, to me, it's just a debacle all the way around.
You're right, Trevor, and we've talked about that a lot. And I explained to the guys even today. I said, listen, he could have as easily as said after the game, hey, listen, I didn't think we were in. I didn't think he was in bounds. I didn't want to waste a challenge flag or potential of losing a timeout, so I chose not to challenge it. But to come out and players tend to buy that a little bit better than you coming out and saying you didn't know the rule. Players at least can buy, man, he should have challenged it. He didn't. That's the head coach. But man, he should have challenged it. But now you're questioning whether he knows the rules or not. To me, that was the first mistake of it. Him trying to be too transparent in the world of football. Haven't he found that out? Mm-hmm. You can't do that in football. You can't be too transparent. In life, yes. Football is a different world, okay? And Brian has opened himself up to even more criticism when he wants to be that transparent, because now not only are the people on the outside of the building looking at you sideways, but maybe, just maybe, some of those players, like you said, Trevor, some of those players in the locker room may be looking at you sideways now as well.
Yeah, and here's the problem is that it piles up. Mm-hmm. If it were just that one thing, okay, that's not good, but we all make mistakes. Okay, let's move on. But then the clock management at the end of the first half. You guys have talked about that probably a lot in the show, but just for those who were not listening when you were talking about it, with less than a minute to go, the Titans are up 6-3. They're ahead 6-3 with less than a minute to go in the first half, but they're backed up on their own 7-yard line, first down. Denver has 2 timeouts left. So instead of running the ball, running out the clock, and going into halftime with the lead, coach decides that's the time he's going to be aggressive. So he called 3 passes. One of them was just a standard incompletion. One of them was a busted assignment because they tried to throw a bubble screen out to the right, and all 3 receivers out there went to block. One of them was supposed to catch the ball, but none of them did. They were all looking at the guy they were trying to block. So the quarterback threw the ball into the ground, clock stops. The next one was a sack right in front of the goal line. And so now they punt from their own end zone. Denver gets the ball and drives it down and has a beautiful touchdown pass right in the final seconds of the first half. So instead of them going into halftime up 6-3, they give up a touchdown. Then DK, of course, has a 71-yard or so kickoff return, and they're able to kick a field goal. So at least it was only a 4-point debacle. But when you put all that stuff together, if you're the players, you're thinking, coach, we're on the road. We're backed up against our own end zone. It's loudest in the whole stadium there, right in that confined space in where the stadium views around, and we're in the back of our own end zone, for goodness sake, and are backed up next to our own end zone. And the risk there against that kind of a pass rush and that kind of noise that was the risk that the coach chose to take at that moment, up 6-3. And I thought the risk reward was just a terrible scenario for the Titans. And if I'm a player, I look at that and I'm just thinking, why in the world did my coach put us in this position where those guys are hard enough to block anyway, coming with their hair on fire on the pass rush, and now we're in the noisy end of the stadium, backed up, and we're going to try now to drive it on down there to get a field goal or a touchdown? No.
Let's go to your wheelhouse, the offensive line. Dan Moore, Jr., how do you think he played? He had when I went back and I watched the film, he had quite a few minus plays, but I think as a whole, you would be better to explain how not only he did in particular, but how the offensive line, I think Jamie Cushionberry, I think he's still working himself back into it, even though he had a few minus plays, but I think he's working himself back into it. But more importantly, Dan Moore, how did you think he did?
Yeah, Dan Moore did not have his best day. I think Pro Football Focus charged him with 7 pressures against Nick Benito, the Broncos pass rusher. One of the best in the league, but seven pressures in a game to the same guy is kind of tough. Benito had 9 pressures total for the game. You talked about Cushionberry, at center. You know, he didn't have any summer camp really. He was coming back from his Achilles injury, and I really didn't think he should have played in this game. I think they should have let Corey Levin play and wait another week or so, or two even maybe, to work him back in. He was in a tough situation. And when J.C. Latham got injured at right tackle, all of a sudden the right tackle position reverted back to the difficulties of the last several years. And so, you know, overall, the offensive line didn't do well. That's part of the reason. But you go back to Dan Moore, and I'm watching him from a standpoint of technique. Now, it's okay to get beat by a great pass rusher on the road when you can't hear anything. That happens, right? But I'm watching his initial pass sets, because if you are facing a guy that's just better than you, and I faced people that were better than me all the time in the NFL, the one thing you control is to take a perfect pass set and then have your first punch be accurate with your hands inside. Now, after that, he's going to start to break you down. But if your pass set is perfect and your initial strike is inside, it will take him more time to break you down. And that's time the quarterback needs to throw the ball. But I noticed that with Moore, when he takes that first step, which he always does very well, his first initial lead step with his outside foot, he steps back and to the side, which he's supposed to. When he steps and then keeps his feet in proper perspective as he continues to set back to get to the angle of the pass rusher, he does really well. But he tends to revert to being a defensive back sometimes. He'll take that first step perfectly, and then instead of coming to balance with the second step and then kicking out again with the third step like you're supposed to do, he'll take a perfect first step, and then he'll start to backpedal like a defensive back. You never do that as an offensive lineman, ever, ever, ever. I mean, a gust of wind will blow you over onto your back if you do that. You're out of position now, and so you lose all your strength. And a lot of the times when Moore got beat, he took a great first step, and then he backpedaled, and then he's not able to have any power or any ability to react to side movement. And so, you know, that's something that you would think he'd be able to correct. But he's been in the league for an awful long time, and he had the same problem at Pittsburgh. So he's going to have to do something to fix that, or else the elite pass rushers are going to continue to have their way with him.
Trevor Matich is with us. Trevor, let's turn to a couple of key college games coming up this weekend. I want to start with Tennessee and Georgia. Georgia's been sort of behind the scenes. They've had a couple of easy games, but one thing that's been talked about a lot is they have not really needed to throw the ball down the field effectively. The passing game's been more of an extension of the running game. And now you've got Tennessee, who's got some banged up guys in the secondary. What do you think of that matchup?
You know, I think that if Georgia is struggling to push the ball down the field statistically, just because their first two opponents were Marshall, who lost all their good players to Southern Miss when their coach went to Southern Miss, and then Austin Peay, who, by the way, is a very good FCS team. But if Georgia was just trying to play everything close to the vest and not really open up the offense, because they have Tennessee, and then the game after that is Alabama. And so if that's what they were doing, okay. But we haven't learned enough about Georgia's quarterback, Gunnar Stockton, yet, because he is a good runner. He's a gamer and a scrapper. But can he throw the ball down the field and connect with his receivers? And can his receivers get down the field and finish those plays? That's another big question mark for Georgia right now, because we didn't see it in the first two games, and we don't know if that's because of competence or if it's because of conservative game planning. And so that's going to be important because Tennessee is going to throw that ball down the field. And quarterback Joey Aguilar has showed in the first two games that he can drop the ball two receivers in stride deep down the field. Even though they didn't play great opponents, it was still very accurate deep throwing by Aguilar. And so Georgia can't count on just pounding the ball and beating Tennessee. They've got to be able to have the big play here and there. And so far they haven't done it. So I'm very interested to see if Stockton can be that guy.
It's a fascinating quarterback matchup for sure. Give us a thought about Vanderbilt's matchup at South Carolina. Impressive performance by Vanderbilt. South Carolina also really hasn't gotten Sellers going yet, which is a little scary, I think, if you're Vanderbilt. Sellers played such a great game, and they mauled Vanderbilt last year. But Vanderbilt looks like it's bringing a little bit more to the table.
They are. Vanderbilt's better at pretty much every position this year than they were last year. Quarterback, Diego Pavia is pulling all that together. They're better at the line of scrimmage, whether it's because of new guys or experience. And they've got one of the best tight ends in the SEC. And so they've got the ability to do stuff. And the fact that they just stomped Virginia Tech on the road last week tells you a lot about them, because that was basically a pick'em game as handicapped by our friends in the desert. And Virginia Tech just ended up dominating that game when push came to shove. The thing about South Carolina is that we talk a lot about Lenore Sellers, their quarterback. And as an individual, he is phenomenal. He's about 240 pounds. He's so hard to bring down. He's like a big fullback that you're trying to tackle, whether it's in the pocket or whether he runs. He's got a cannon for an arm. He can throw it out of the building. He's all that. Everything that everybody says, it's not hype. He's that good. The question is, can the offensive line do their work when they're facing a good defense? Can their defensive line, they've got a couple guys that are really strong on the D line, but they don't have a lot of depth on that side. So I think that Vanderbilt has a good chance to match up with South Carolina in the trenches better than they have been able to in many years. And I think Vanderbilt has a good chance to win this game. And again, part of the reason is you look at the quarterback matchup, both quarterbacks know how to win. But I think Vanderbilt has a chance to do some things, especially now when you're talking about throwing the ball to a matchup advantage at tight end. So this is going to be a very interesting game for Vanderbilt. But if they can win this game, the next two are Georgia State and Utah State, and they might be undefeated going into Alabama. And so that could be a very interesting scenario.
Trevor Matich has been our guest on D. Mace, Vingen, and Donick. He is brought to you every week by Houston Clinic Orthopedics, when experience matters. Trevor, great stuff as always. We'll catch up next week.
Thanks, guys.
We will react to what Trevor Matich had to say about the Tennessee Titans coming up next. You can join us as well at 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen, 1025 The Game.
Let's talk about Loan Pronto. If you're trapped in a high-rate mortgage, watching your hard-earned money vanish every month, Loan Pronto right now is delivering the lowest mortgage rates in 3 years. So it's time to make the phone call and refi. Loan Pronto's rate reduction home loan program is a streamlined, low-cost way to slash your house payments by hundreds of dollars a month. And you can even skip your next two house payments entirely. Lock in that fixed rate as low as 4.99% APR and close in as little as 2 weeks. No appraisal needed in most cases. So lower payments, more money in your pocket, and a fresh start with a better mortgage. Call Loan Pronto now, 615-499-5780, or visit loanpronto.com and lock in that new low rate. Skip those next two house payments. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
D-Mace, Vingan and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Always a pleasure to talk football with Trevor Matich. He joins us every Tuesday at 4:20. And Derek Mason, I am going to ask you the same question I asked Trevor Matich because I was fascinated by Trevor's answer. I asked Trevor if his faith would have been shaken as a player based on Brian Callahan's performance Sunday in Denver. He said yes, unequivocally. What say you?
Depending on what type of locker room you have, and was this a one-off, or has it been a series of unfortunate, situations? Remember the movie? What was it called? Unfortunate something. I watched. They had a sequel to it.
A series of unfortunate events.
Yeah, something like that. Events.
That is a movie.
Yeah, I watched it. It was pretty good too. It's funny. But if you have a series of events that sort of questions your ability to be the head of this, of this organization, which he is. He's the head coach. Then yeah, players will, especially veteran players, young players, probably not so much because they don't know nothing else. They just got here. But veteran players, yeah, and that's what you don't want to happen, because as a young coach, you want to come in to do what? One is to change whatever has been going on. That's why they got you there. That's why they hired you, for you to change the environment. And then two, you want to get the respect of your players and for them to give you the respect you deserve. You lose credibility. You lose a sense of respect, not as a person, but as a head coach. Can you lead this team? If too many of these events start happening, you will lose faith first in the veteran guys, and then possibly the young guys, because the young guys, they only go by what the veteran guys show them majority of the time. And if you have a veteran guy that after a while, because typically veteran guys, they just gonna let it go for a minute, or whatnot, and it takes a lot for them to kind of get going. And when that happens, that's not good for a locker room. If it was me, I'm in that situation like Brian, if I'm on this team, I don't know if I'm necessarily losing faith in Coach Callahan right now, but these are things as a player, veteran player, and I'm like, okay, that happened. All right. I'm just going to check that out. Just put a check, because, yeah, we all mess up. I didn't play a perfect game. I get it. But just like players, when a player messes up too many times, check. Oh, minus. What happens in this game?
He gets cut.
He gets benched. Yeah, if not cut, he gets benched.
That too.
You can't bench Callahan. You can only remove him from his duties. I'm not saying he's there yet. Again, I am not saying he's there yet. But what happened Sunday cannot show up again any Sunday. They don't play Monday games. Any Sunday game
you can't draft they have, prime time.
Yeah, they have this season. That cannot show up.
Let me ask you this. You've talked about your experience with the Baltimore Ravens, and please forgive me for not remembering every player, but when John Harbaugh first arrived in Baltimore, you've talked about how you and I believe Ed Reed, other veterans on the team, you spoke up for the team. Do you think that there is a collection of Titans veteran players who have gone to Callahan over the past couple of days, or will go up to Callahan over the next few days before the game against Los Angeles, and talk to him about what happened on Sunday, and try to, for lack of a better term, hash things out, attempt to understand what happened, make sure that they're all on the same page? Do you anticipate that happening?
No.
Why not?
I wasn't going to say anything. I'm just going to leave it blank. Yeah, that's my answer. No, because again, you're talking about two different teams. Our team back then was led heavy by veteran guys.
But they've got
accomplished veteran guys.
Right, but they've got Jeffrey Simmons.
Veteran guys, like I said, accomplished veteran guys, not just accomplished in, individually, won championships.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. Ray Lewis, Jonathan Ogden, guys like that had won championships. They understood, they understand. That team was different. We were a veteran-led team. And it wasn't about his play calling. It wasn't about that, because hell, we hadn't gotten to play calling yet. It wasn't about that. It was about taking care of the team physically. That's what it was about. And guys, stood up and voiced their opinions based upon what was being told based on what the team was telling us three. So we took it upon ourselves after hearing that, saying, hey, listen, we need to address this as a family, us in here. We need to address it. This is something totally different. This is the X's and O's. And listen, I had my run-ins with the late, great Mike Hammerdinger. I've had my run-ins with coordinators, whether it be Billick when he was coordinator, or Fossil. Fossil was my guy, really. Not really, it's a Fossil. Fossil was my guy. Or who else was the coordinator back then? Why am I forgetting his name?
Marty Morningweg?
No, he's been on our show 100 times. CBS.
Oh, Rick Newhouse.
Yeah, Rick and I's gotten into it a couple of times, and he would say, Mason, you want to call a play? I'm like, no, I don't want to call a play. That's not my job. I'm just telling you. I'm just complaining about them. So when it comes to plays, that's a very fine line. I, as an offensive player, can go to my offensive head, or my offensive coordinator, or my receiver coach and say, man, what's going on? I can do that, because hopefully that relationship is good enough to whereas, they understand where I'm coming from. And if, they got to say what they got to say, and I understand where they're coming from. But it's hard for defensive guys to step over that boundary into the offensive lane. Ray never did it. Let me see who else. Ed Reed never did it. Terrell Suggs never did it. Keith Bullock never did it. Kevin Carter never did it. Samari, Blaine, those guys didn't step over that line. They may have talked to us about some things, but they've never stepped over that line. I need to talk to the head coach or the offensive coordinator. In this part, and this is where we talked about yesterday, Willie, the two jobs in one. Maybe this is the part where it's like, man, being a head coach and an offensive coordinator, there's a dilemma, because as a player, I want to go to my head coach and say something. But I'm talking about the offensive coordinator, right, who's my head coach. So what do I do as a defensive player or leader of this team? You're stuck in limbo, because the head coach is your offensive coordinator. But typically, defensive guys don't cross that line over into the offensive line, just like the offensive guys don't cross that line over to the defensive coordinators, whoever they are. So, I mean, I don't think there's an offensive guy. The only person that could potentially say something is Cam Ward, and Cam Ward's not going to say anything. He's just not.
What's interesting, Adam? You pointed out how many head coaches these days are calling the plays.
16 of 32.
So half of them. So I'm curious if this trend continues this way. And as long as Andy Reid is, rising up as maybe one of the 5 greatest of all time, right? He's getting into that discussion, then the trend is going to probably continue. But it is fraught with potential pitfalls like that. Just the makeup of it. It takes a special coach to be able to do both and also weather the storms. It takes the right defensive coordinator. Like I'm thinking back when Buddy Ryan punched the guy right before you got to the Oilers, a couple years before you got to the Oilers. Buddy Ryan punched Kevin Gilbride, the offensive coordinator for the Houston Oilers at the time, who was running the run and shoot. And Buddy was like, "You're not giving my defense a chance. You guys are just chucking it all over the place. The clock's not running." So the complementary part of it, and I do think a trap that can be fallen. I would just think, I've never been in there, but the play caller has got a mindset, but you also have to crisscross it with playing the complementary football. How does it affect my defense? How does it affect my team? It's got to go beyond just what's the right play for this situation.
That's why I think Coach Harbaugh became That's why I believe he's such a good coach, because the special teams coach, he's special for one of the only reasons is because he's the only guy in that building that gets an opportunity to coach both offense and defense. He's coaching offensive players and he's coaching defensive players to be on a special team. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the attitudes from the defensive side. You get the attitudes from the offensive side. You got to find a way to mirror all this together, what works perfectly into a special teams unit. That's why I believe John Harbaugh is such a good coach. Outside of him being Harbaugh, because his brother's a good coach too, and his dad was a good coach. But because he's had sort of the best of both worlds. He had an opportunity before he became head coach to deal with offensive and defensive players, which means he had an opportunity as a special teams coach to deal with the team outside of the quarterback, deal with the team. That's why I think his tenure in Baltimore has been so long, because he's able to cross-reference both sides, because he's had that experience being a special teams coach.
615-737-1025.
I'm popping stuff around here.
Derek punctuates his point by tossing his pen cap at me.
My Nashville Predator pen cap.
Predators training camp starts next
Absolutely.
week.
Nashville Predators.
FYI, first practice, I want to say, is next Friday off the top of my head. So hockey season will be here before you know it. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, let's talk L'Jarius Sneed, because there seems to be a difference of opinion, perhaps, between L'Jarius Sneed and the coaching staff about his playing time on Sunday. We'll discuss that coming up next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Ving at 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Finnegan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. I hope everybody is having a wonderful Tuesday. Let's talk L'Jarius Sneed. We wondered if L'Jarius Sneed would even suit up this season. Willie Donick asked a question to that effect in his critical 10 Titans questions. Well, L'Jarius Sneed did suit up.
He's 1 for 1.
He is 1 for 1 this season. He did play against the Denver Broncos, albeit he played, at least according to the NFL, 19 snaps against the Broncos, all of which came in the first half. Now, L'Jarius Sneed was interviewed after the game, and he seemed to be confused about the lack of playing time. Here was L'Jarius Sneed after the game in Denver.
A bit more, a little bit less. How'd it go?
Yeah, you got to talk to the coaches about that. You know, on their behalf, I don't have no control of that.
You didn't play at all coming out of the second half? Like, did you tweak anything? Or coming out of the first half, rather?
I didn't tweak it today. I'm good. It's the coach's decision.
Okay.
Did you know that coming in, that you were kind of going to be on a pitch count?
Pitch count? Yeah, but I didn't know it was going to go with it.
Just disappointed about that?
Very.
Did you want to go back out there at all? Did you say anything to them?
Yes, I did. But it's okay. Team player, you know.
How'd you feel when you did?
I felt great.
Think you could offer more?
Definitely. I wanted to offer more.
How hard was it to sit on the sideline and just watch the result?
It wasn't hard, you know. I was watching my brothers compete, you know. We didn't come out on the W side, you know. That's what, you know, everybody in here felt.
So that was L'Jarius Sneed after the game.
I'm fascinated by this.
Okay.
I'm fascinated.
Tell us why.
Well, what did he say? When they asked him, did you know you're going to be on a pitch count? He said, yes, but, and I couldn't make out what he said, but
David, can we play it again?
Just that one little clip. It's hard.
I'll tell you
very
when to
hard
stop,
to hear.
but we'll play it again.
I didn't know it was going to go the way it went.
I didn't know it was going to be a what?
I didn't know it was going to go the way it went.
Go the way it went.
Yes.
Well, see, now that's interesting to me because D-Mace, I know you are queued up for your communication lecture, which you've been saying for a long time that the Titans bungle all the time. The communication. I agree. Now that having said that, let's take what he said and put it aside just for a second. I get the pitch count thing. I think that was a modern sports science thing. Would you rather have him not play, or would you rather play him for whatever they decided before the game, 20 snaps or whatever it was? They played 19. I've heard this thrown out there by some people. Well, why didn't they space it out over the course of the game?
That was me during the commercial break.
Well, but a lot of people have said that. And it's a good question. It's a good question because in a perfect world, you'd love to maybe save some of the snaps for when the game's on the line. But I'll equate it to a baseball rehab assignment. Like Reese Hoskins for the Nashville Sounds. He just got called back up by the Brewers. When you go on a rehab assignment, you start off by you just DH. You don't play in the field. Then they ramp you up. You can play you're going to DH, and you're going to play 3 innings in the field. Then you're going to play a full game. Then you're going to take a day off, and then you come back and play 2 games in a row. They ramp you up. But most of this is done at the minor league level. There are no minor leagues in football. So it's like, do you want Sneed out there at all before he's really, in their mind, ready to play a full game? He's a major, major injury risk. So when you do a rehab assignment, they don't say, hey, Willie, pitch the first inning and then go sit down for a while. And then, so we want you to pitch 3 innings, pitch the first inning, and then come back in the game in the 8th or the 9th. Like, you don't want to ramp the guy up full speed and then have him cool down and rest and then ramp him back up. That is a major way to up the risk of re-injury for him. And I know he's made of porcelain and, let's put the bubble wrap on him. I know he's a major risk. We knew that going in. But I had no problem with the decision to do that. What I cannot understand is that he didn't apparently know that that's what they were going to do. That doesn't make any sense.
Before Derek answers that question, let's hear from Brian Callahan yesterday on his explanation on the L'Jarius Sneed pitch count.
Let's take a couple more, guys. Can you explain the necessity of the pitch count with L'Jarius, and what exactly is the benefit of saving him at this point in the year when the game's counting out?
It's not really about saving him per se. It's about the loading coming off an injury and very limited practice time. And when you've practiced for a really short amount of time, we track all the GPS volumes and all the work that he's gotten in. And, he had worked up to a particular volume that we felt comfortable where you're not pushing past that strain. And there was a cap put on that. And look, it's frustrating. It's a frustrating thing for guys when they get ready to go play in a game. That's not easy for them to do. That's not something that is usually very smooth at the end of the day. Because once they get in that mode to go play, they want to play. But organizationally, from a health standpoint, over the course of time, over the course of 17 games, you put yourself at risk when you just go in there to a game and you play 65 plays. The risk of injury, especially soft tissue, goes way up. And that was part of the thought process. And that was that, we're going to build the load back up because he hadn't had a lot of practice time in between. So would have loved to see him play more, certainly. And I think he's going to keep building into that ability to play for an entire game with the limited work he's had up until this point.
Will he be able to do that as early as next week, do you think, or will it take maybe another week?
We're going to see. We're going to see how practice goes. We'll increase his load in practice again this week. He'll go more. He'll practice with more reps and more volume, and we'll see what that looks like by the end of the week, and we'll make a determination for the game. And that's a collective determination is made between all of us, training room, Mike, myself, and we try to do what's best for the player for the long term at the end of the day.
So that was Brian Callahan's explanation. Derek, your thoughts on all of this?
I just think it was just a lack of situational communication.
What we have here is a failure
to communicate. Yeah, it's a lack of situational communication on, and y'all gonna be shocked to hear this, on L'Jarius Sneed. I said situational communication. Communication between he and the reporter. Situational. They don't need to know all of that stuff. They don't need to know.
He threw him under the bus.
You threw him on. That's why I said, and that goes to the bigger communication with he and the head coach, or he and the defensive coordinator. He has to learn. See, I think this is where some players get in trouble, because they want to control the narrative so much that they release information that shouldn't be released at all. I didn't need to know all of that other stuff. All I needed to know, or I needed to tell you, was, hey, listen, I was on a pitch count, and, that's the way it was. I probably could have played a little bit more, but we had already decided it was on a pitch count. Well, did you know you weren't going to listen? The coach had already decided this is how many plays I was going to play, and I'm sure we were close to those plays, or we were right at those plays. I don't need to say that other stuff. You're right. Letting them in. You're letting him behind the curtain. You're letting people behind the curtain when they don't need to go behind the curtain. L'Jarius, you've done that before with when you were at your he was doing his charity event somewhere, and he talked about not being here and all this other stuff. I'm ready to go, and I'm healthy as I could be, and all this other stuff. Some of this stuff that the players, we don't need to know. Reporters don't need to know. Yeah, they're going to ask the questions. They are supposed to ask those questions. But again, I was taught longer time ago as a young player, take a deep breath, compose yourself, think about what you're going to say, because Willie and Adam ain't going nowhere. They ain't. They're going to stay here until I get that, answer their question. Take a deep breath and then answer the question. Think about it and then answer the question. Some days it would take me a minute. Like, I'm just sitting in my locker thinking like, man, okay. And then I'll give you an answer. Ain't nothing wrong with that. That's where L'Jarius Sneed is at fault. Your situational communication with the wrong people. Yeah, what you said probably was 100% right.
You can say all day I would have loved to have been
exactly.
out there.
But
I want to compete. But this is what we decided. The organization thinks that this is the best thing for me right now.
Exactly. I know I'll play more as we move forward, but as of now, they said I was on a pitch count and I played that amount of plays, and that's the way it was. Now, I am surprised with this. That last series, because L'Jarius Sneed had played the series before. And that last series, that is a critical series. You see what's happening. You done already made a blunder, Callahan. You done already made a blunder by throwing 3 straight pass plays. And I'm not going to say they were all your fault, but you should have tried to run the football. Calvin Ridley, you need to know what to do on one of those screens. More, you need to learn how to damn block to give you enough money. I expect y'all to get better in the next game. But that's critical. That's one of those critical moments in games. We all talk about critical plays. Coaches preach about critical plays. 1 or 2 critical plays. We got to have them. That was a critical series. You had already blundered the series prior on offense, and then y'all blundered the series on defense by not putting your best cover guy out there. I know he probably was at the point of the load management. We're right at that 25 plays, but you're inside the red zone. You need your best cover guys out, and they went right at your weakest link.
They did.
So if I have this right,
that's a fair second guess. I think
his final snap of the game came with 59 seconds left in the second quarter.
So he's warm.
He's warmed up.
His body's going.
Yeah. The touchdown pass was thrown with 16 seconds left.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, it was only the second play of that drive, right?
Yeah,
because they got the interference on Brownley, and
then they threw the touchdown.
We'll get to Jarvis Brownley.
So he would have played, 2 to 5 more plays.
Exactly.
And it's arbitrary whether 19 plays or 23. You're still in that range of you're on the pitch count, and you could have. But
I want my best players out there.
That's a fair point. That is a fair point.
I want my best players out there in a critical situation. It is not like it was at the end of the game and he had been out the whole second half. And then, okay, I can get with that part because he hadn't been playing. I just don't want to throw a guy in there that's already prone to injuries and he's a little bit banged up. I don't want to throw him back out there after he's already been sitting an hour and a half in football time. He's been in real time. He's been sitting an hour and a half. So I don't want to throw him back out there. But he had just finished the drive before on defense. Why not throw him back out there? You just blundered the offensive series. Then all of y'all doubled down and blundered the defensive series. And that's where.
And also, by the way, Brownley's pass interference was a terrible call.
It was terrible. It was a bad call. So
that didn't help. That put him in a tough spot.
We'll talk about Brownley in the next segment, but I look there. I think there was an example of Brownley getting away with a call that should have been pass interference. So it works both ways. I'll save this for when we talk about Brownley, but I want to point out something that Nick Suss wrote at the Tennessean and see if you guys agree. He says, quote, given the pre-planned decision to limit Sneed's reps, the way the Titans depth chart was organized for the Broncos game was a bit of a puzzler. They didn't activate Jalen Armour-Davis or Samuel Womack III, both of whom were waiver claims. The 2 cornerbacks the teams picked up off of waivers. That's what I just said. That meant for most of the game, including the entire second half, the Titans operated with just 4 cornerbacks available.
They must not have felt like those guys were ready.
Yeah, ready to
play. The only thing I could think of.
They had to be ready from a schematic standpoint.
Didn't Wilson kind of put that out there during the week that it was going to take a little bit?
Yeah, because they had to learn the defense and at least get the basics down of the defense. But even that, I mean, I get it. The way you probably had to make sure you kept an extra offensive lineman or somebody else, and you just couldn't afford to have that extra DB. Hooker can double as your slot guy. He has enough covering ability to do that. But my thing is, he had just finished the series before. He was still warm, adrenaline still going. This is a critical moment of the game. You're in the red zone with a team that seemed to have a little bit of momentum after they stopped you. You took one blunder and you added another on top of it. Now, you can blame everybody for that one. You can blame the medical people for that one. Stop using damn analytics, man. Watch the damn game. That's sometimes, and I didn't mean to get on this rant, but I am. Sometimes you lose too much damn analytics, okay? Watch the game.
Nerds.
Watch
the game, nerds.
His we monitor him the whole game, and his pitch count was this, and we knew it. No, look at the game. Watch and see your player. Understand. All right, yeah, he may be at 27, and yeah, we may have he may be running hot just a tad bit, not really, let's say running orange right now. He's running orange, but man, this is the series before the half, and we got to have a play. We got to make sure they don't score.
Do you
so
think
I
they
gotta
told
put my
him?
defensive guy out there.
Do you think when they forced the punt with 47
Stop
seconds?
using analytics all the time. I'm not
Okay.
against analytics.
Okay.
I love y'all too when y'all use them.
Well,
but stop using damn analytics and stop making that as a damn excuse for not having your number one corner out there when he needs to be out there, okay? And Sneed, learn how to use situational communication, brother. That's all. I'm not mad at you. Played a hell of a game for the time that you played, and I'm glad. And hopefully, moving forward, you're going to play more, which means the Titans' defense is going to be even better. From what I saw the last game, you're getting to that point where you're being back to the Jerry Sneed that we saw in Kansas City. But listen, watch your players, Brian Callahan. Watch them. Throw that analytics out the door for a minute. Don't be so nerdy. I love nerds, though, but don't be so damn nerdy, man. Get the analytics out of here. I love y'all too, though.
Let me ask you a question.
I love analytics.
I love analytics, but in that situation,
watch the game, nerds.
Let me give you a possible way that this went, because I agree with you. A pitch count, like let's play to where it literally applies. If a pitcher in a baseball game is on a pitch count, if you're generally saying he's going to throw 50 pitches, but he's got 2 outs in the inning, and he gets to pitch 50, and the count's 0-1. You're not going to take the guy out. He's going to finish the batter, right? Or you're going to finish the inning. Either one, depending on how strict you want to be. But you're not going to go exactly. Here's what I wonder. When they force the punt, that backed the Titans up into that situation where, okay, you've got the ball with 47 seconds left. What are you going to do? Do you think at that point they went to Sneed and say, that's it? Because they probably didn't figure that the Broncos would get the ball back at the end of the half. I don't know if they did that or not.
Sure. No. What you're saying, I believe in their minds, they thought, okay, the series prior to the blundered series that the Titans had, that this was going to be it. We ain't going to have to go back on the field. So
and then we're like, oh, man, they're coming back out here.
Yeah.
We're in trouble. Legarius, I know we just told you you're done.
But I don't think they went to Legarius. No. I don't think they went to him. I'm not sure if they went.
I'm just wondering.
I'm not going to say 100% they didn't go to him. But I would tend to believe the way that went down, I don't think they went to L'Jarius Sneed. And I could be wrong here, but I don't think they went to L'Jarius Sneed and say, give us another series. I think they had already made up their mind. He is done for today.
They wanted to get him out of there feeling good.
And that should have been a situation.
Which is tempting to leave him in there. Like, oh, he feels good. Just keep him out there.
But that would have been a great situation to say, give me the analytics. Let's just put down the analytics for a minute. Not throw him away, but let's put him down for a minute.
Derek is snapping the Microsoft Surface tablet over his knee.
How does he look? Okay, he looks good. Put him back out there. Put him because this is the last year. We don't want it. Let's finish the half. Put him back out there. And then after half, pick up your analytics book and use it again. That's all.
Try to fix the Microsoft Surface tablet you just smashed in half and get back to it.
Some duct tape out.
615-737.
Gorilla Glue.
Yes, fixes everything. 615-737-1025. Watch the game, nerds. We'll continue this conversation coming up next. I also want to touch on Jarvis Brownley. Denard Wilson also discussed Jarvis Brownley today and his propensity for penalties. We'll discuss that coming up next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Hey, it's Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution to shed some extra pounds only to come up short. But But I got some good news because at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and the team understands this frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize their program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
I want him to play with the tenacity that he plays with. I want him to play hard, but the penalties must stop. At the end of the day, we have to clean it up. And I've been raised with the thought if you allow it to happen, is not good. So we've addressed it. We're going to keep working on him getting his hands down at the top of the route, not grabbing, okay? And then understanding when is the point to take your hands off of receivers, right? At the beginning of the stage, yes, be violent with your hands, move your feet. But as they start to go in the move area, we got to drop our hands. So it will be addressed. We will do things throughout the course of the week to correct it. But the penalties aren't acceptable. And obviously it hurt us in the game.
That was Titans defensive coordinator Denard Wilson on Jarvis Brownley, who committed 3 penalties on Sunday, 1 illegal contact, 1 DPI, 1 face mask. His 3 penalties led all defensive players in the NFL in week 1. And if L'Jarius Sneed is going to be on a pitch count, that means more responsibility for Jarvis Brownley. And Jarvis Brownley, as Denard Wilson just said, has to stop taking penalties. And here is what I was going to say in the previous segment that I saved. To use something that I talk about a lot in hockey, Willie. Whenever a player on a hockey team gets called for a penalty and you can argue about, hey, that was a bad call, my go-to is do not put yourself in position for the referee to make that call on you. And that's what I think about with Jarvis Brownley, because as you said, you believe one of the defensive pass there was only one defensive pass interference call on Brownley. It was a bad call. Now, I believe there was a non-call that probably should have been a call.
But they let a lot go. Like I
Right.
thought they let some contact go. It's always interesting how the game is being called as a part of the context, I think.
But with Brownley, he continues to put himself in position to have these penalties called on him. And I like Denard Wilson's response there. He did not mince words about Jarvis Brownley needing to clean up the penalties. And by the way, doesn't get much easier for the Tennessee Titans this weekend. Puka Nacua against the Houston Texans on Sunday, 10 catches on 11 targets for 130 yards.
He got hit so hard twice in the helmet in one play. I don't know how he didn't get he had blood coming down from his head. I don't know how he wasn't concussed, but he's a heck of a player.
I'm sure he was.
On Brownley, though, I still believe that because he's a young player, I'm going to give it time. I like the aggressiveness. You've got to just harness it. But I think the problem is, like you said, Adams, he's got a reputation. And they're looking for it. Like, if he keeps doing the same thing, he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. Hopefully, if he can survive long enough and learn a little bit along the way, he'll start to get the benefit of the doubt. For example, let's look at the other side of the ball. There was a really interesting series of 3 plays. The first one was the Io Manor elbow in that they didn't challenge. That could have been pass interference. They didn't call it. The second one was Patrick Surtain over the top of Calvin Ridley's back on 2nd and 20. Clearly interference. But he got the benefit of the doubt because he's Patrick Surtain, who does get penalized a lot, by the way. But Calvin Ridley's looking around going, that was pass interference. That would have been an automatic first down. He went through his back. His head bobbed before the ball got there. Textbook. But it's bang, bang. But it's Surtain. Gets the benefit. And then the next play is Io Manor down the other sideline. A catchable ball. A lot of contact. They let it go. No call. So all of that in the context of Brownley. Brownley doesn't get the benefit of the doubt because they go in and they look at the numbers. He's young, and he got penalized a lot last year, and he'd already been flagged, twice? At least once before that PI happens.
He had 2 flags on him.
It was illegal contact first.
Yeah. He had the one
DPI,
where he grabbed the side of the helmet.
Then DPI, then face mask.
So he had
in
3.
that order.
He had 3 penalties.
So the illegal contact is another one where, if ask Peyton Manning if he thought the Patriots got away with some illegal contact. It's always a feel. You have to get a feel for how the game's being called. You also have to know when you're circled as a guy that is going to get no benefit of the doubt. And that's where he is in his career right now.
Is he a good player? I believe. Does he have talent? Let's say that good player doesn't necessarily, have the talent that Brownley has. From a talent standpoint, he is a talented individual. The problem here is that he's not confident in his talent to play that position without grabbing. Basically, that's what it is. And Denard Wilson understands that. But he understands, too, that we can only allow this to happen so many times, because he went short of saying if we are allowing it to happen or we coaching or allow it to happen. He kind of stopped himself at the end. It was like, and he said something else. But either you are coaching, you are allowing it to happen in practice, which happens in a game, or you're coaching it. One of the two. And I would tend to say he's not coaching the grabbing part. The defensive back coach is not coaching grabbing. He has everything that Brownlee is doing right now has to do with a lack of trust. A lack of trust in his ability to play this game. A lack of trust in his ability to drop his hips. A lack of trust in his ability to turn his hips. A lack of trust in his ability, his speed to run down the field with an individual. That's what happened when you start grabbing and pulling at guys at the top of their route, because you don't think, or you're out of position, or you don't trust that you can turn your hips good enough that you don't need to grab him. He's at a point right now that, and I've seen this happen, and I'm not going to say with who, but I've seen it happen. Put some mittens on him in practice. Put mittens on him. He can't grab anybody then. He can't. No, seriously. Yeah. These are the things that you got to do.
Are we talking oven mitts here?
I'm talking about just mittens, like
no fingers.
Mittens.
No fingers.
No fingers where I can't grab. No, and we were laughing, but these are some of the things that I've seen done.
Fair enough.
With guys that have a problem with reaching out and grab. They're in phase with them. We talked last year, and Teron talked about it ad nauseum, how he was in phase a lot last year. He would be so that's the ability to cover. Trust that part. Now trust that you can drop your hips and get in and out of a break. You've done it plenty of times working out. You've done it plenty of times in practice. You get in the game, and it's almost like you just don't really trust that part of your game. Now, I understand there's going to be some back and forth grabbing and boxing and trying to jostle for position. I get that part. But when you have this rep already of grabbing and holding people, you have to find a way not to do that. That's where Denard Wilson comes in and the defensive backs coach comes in. How can we find a way for you to trust what you see? For one, trust the route combinations, because that's a part of it. Trust the route combination, but more importantly, trust your ability to play this position with your feet, because that's what defensive back is about. They don't expect you to catch everything, because that's why you're a defensive back, because you couldn't play wide receiver. Okay, that's the joke. But they believe that you have enough ability to stop, get out of transition, get into transition, get out of it, and knock the ball down. If you catch it, that's a bonus. That's like, yes, you caught it, but you need to be in phase. And he's always in phase, but he needs to trust, even while in phase, when a receiver breaks down or you're right there, there's no need to grab. So Denard Wilson and anybody else over there, put some mittens on that young man during the whole practice. Allow him to play with mittens for a whole week and see if that translates to the game.
And Willie, one point, Jarvis Brownley was thrown right into the fire before anybody, including himself,
because they believed in him.
Well,
and they didn't have anybody else.
L'Jarius Sneed was injured. Chidobe Awuzie, remember Chidobe Awuzie? I may even be pronouncing his name incorrectly.
They still got to believe in you to throw you out there.
True, but they really had no other choice.
They could have went and got somebody else if they wanted to.
I mean, Darrell Baker was thrown in there the other day. 4 catches allowed on 4 targets for 46 yards, including the touchdown to Cortland Sutton. That, like, if Sneed can't play, the Titans are down bad at that position. We talked about that all offseason, and you saw it firsthand on Sunday. But Brownlee,
unless the waiver wire guys are helpful, that's a wild card right now.
Yes. So, but to my point, Willie, is that Brownlee was thrust into a position that the Titans at the beginning of last season probably did not expect him to play. But Sneed was unavailable, Awuzie was unavailable, and Brownlee was next man up with Jake Lyman. So he's learning on the fly here. And you're seeing what happens when you thrust a young player into a position he may not be completely ready for. Is the point that I'm making.
That's fair. And at the same time, when you're in the mode that I think the Titans are in, I don't know how Amy Adams feels about it because she is in charge, but I feel like Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi especially know that this is a rebuild. It is factual. It is not really debatable. And when you're in rebuild mode,
play the kids.
Play the kids.
Well, they said they were going to play the young keep.
Yeah.
And
how did Brian Callahan start his Monday press conference? We started 4 rookies. He wanted to make sure he got that out there before he knew he was going to get barbecued with all the other questions. But he was like, can I just make one point from a PR standpoint here? We're playing a lot of young players.
Disclaimer here.
We're playing a lot of young players. Remember that? But you're hoping to find pieces along the way. And Brownlee's a great example. Is he a guy that can play for a winning team in another year or two? I'm still surprised. Like Roger McCreary is not signed past this year, right? Am I wrong about that? Is he?
No, I think he is a free agent or
restricted free agent at the end of the year.
That may be his upcoming his 5th year.
I'm looking right now. His contract ends after this season. He's an unrestricted.
Yeah, unrestricted. So
like this is the end of his rookie contract.
I would think that he has done enough. Maybe break the bank, but wouldn't you rather have him down the road?
But you don't sign him now. You don't. You don't sign him now.
But what if he just says, "Well, I'll just become a free agent"? The defensive backs are going to get paid.
They want younger
Christian
players.
Fulton's still in the
but
league.
they want younger players. I'm not saying. Look, I've said this. I said this earlier. I've said this earlier. I don't think. I'm not saying 100% sure, but I don't think that McQuarrie will be back here next year.
That's
I
interesting
think
to me.
they're trying to. This could just be me. I think they're trying to move away from those draft picks, all those draft picks.
Era.
Yeah, from that era.
I see.
And they're moving
Wouldn't be the
forward.
first team to do that.
They're just trying to move forward. And I thought McQuarrie played a good game Sunday.
He did.
And it may be, just maybe, if he plays lights out this season, maybe they choose.
I mean, they just signed Hooker. Yeah. And so that surprised me.
But
I don't know about
he's more of a veteran. He's that veteran. He's probably the only connection to veteran leadership to that old regime that they're more willing to keep is Amani Hooker.
Henry and Byard and Tannehill.
Yeah, they're all gone. He because he plays so closely with Byard. I think the things that he's learned from Byard, and I think he has become a leader on that defensive side of the ball. And I think he is in that back end that kind of keeps guys together as far as relaying calls to the defense. But with that being said, Brownlee just needs to play better. He does. I'm not going to make no excuses for the young man because I think he's hell of a talent. He's hella talented as a player, and you see it, but you also see this flaw that he has that it seems like he hadn't worked on it in the offseason. It just seems like he hasn't.
And on a team that commits a lot of penalties.
Exactly.
615-737-1025. We will get to your reaction and wrap up the show next with a tradition unlike any other. I trash Bill Belichick.
Yes.
We'll do that coming up next. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Derek Mason here. If you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible or frankly nothing at all. Law Tigers make sure you get the compensation you deserve and doesn't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you, so they will get it all repaired or better yet, replaced. Law Tigers is the resource the motorcycle community turns to when in need. So whether it's Tigers or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fusen, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you on your drive home. If you missed the first hour of the program, I believe it's coming up next. You can hear the replay. So, educate yourselves. And speaking of educating, a couple of weeks ago, I bought a bell, like the kind you see on the desk at a hotel, because I want to make all of you, I want you to feel like you learned something listening to our show, not just about sports, but about vocabulary. So when anybody uses a big word on this show, we ding the bell like that. And I wish this texter would have put their name on this, because for the first time, we are going to give the bell to a texter. about Jarvis Brownley. This texter says Brownley can be a great corner, but his perfunctoriness when it comes to technique leads to grabbing players. As is, he's just a liability. Ding! Not about him being a liability.
Good vocab.
Yes. Perfunctory, by the way, means carried out with a minimum of effort or reflection.
So like a careless about it.
Indifferent.
Not attention to detail.
Apathetic. Along those lines.
Willie, you were right. Quickly, Willie, you were right. He changed gloves at halftime, but before half, he had on those damn red gloves, grabbing folks. Stop it! Take off those red gloves. Don't ever wear those red gloves again, Brownlee. Or nobody on the defensive side of the ball. Don't wear red gloves. Period.
Here's what Derek would do if he were on the coaching staff for the Tennessee Titans.
Outlaw red gloves.
Well, he would take all of the red gloves. He would take all of the Microsoft Surface tablets with the analytics on them, douse them in gasoline, and set them on fire outside of St. Thomas Sports Bar.
No, I douse it with gasoline, let it dry, make sure it works again, and then give it to you. And if you do something crazy on the field, I would take a lighter and just just light it up in flames right there.
Oh, geez.
That's what I would do.
Andrew on our text line says, I have zero issues with Brownlee's penalties. Dude is playing hard. Sure beats the years we watched our cornerbacks play 9 yards off the ball.
And I get that part, but there comes a point, a time where you got to learn how to, not be aggressive or not, because essentially they're hurting your team. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, in the past, the defensive backs would sit back 9 yards, get stuff thrown, right at them and right at the sticks, and nobody was around. I get that part. But I don't want the other extreme either, where the guy is grabbing somebody all the time. I don't want to give up a free 15 or 20 or 30-yard penalty, because essentially that's what it is. They are spot fouls. They are not 5-yard fouls. They are pass interference, which means wherever that ball landed, that's where the ball is going to be placed. So I don't want to see any more 30 unearned games, okay? I don't want to see that anymore. He needs to stop, plain and simple.
And the illegal contact, it could be 3rd and 20, and it's only a 5-yard penalty, but it's an automatic first down. Defensive holding, automatic first down. So it's tough. Life as a DB is not easy, but he's got to make the adjustment. He's got to make the adjustment.
I think Mark Sanchez said on the broadcast, you have to be a little bit crazy to want to play defensive back.
Yeah, he was saying that, and also not paying attention that the guy's elbow was in bounds. So, Mark, how about, or maybe that was possibly pass interference? Like, he completely ignored the pass
that was
interference
on the play,
in the contact of all 3 of those plays. 1st and 20, 2nd and 20, 3rd and 20. It was a really interesting swing sequence in the game.
So, I don't mean to do this.
Yeah, you do.
Yes, you do.
I don't need to do this.
No, you've been looking forward to this all day.
But I've been doing this a lot. And just to understand, for like 20 years, I didn't care what Bill Belichick did. The New England Patriots, I watched all of the Super Bowls. I paid attention to the NFL. I had no opinion on Bill Belichick. As soon as the man decided to coach at the University of North Carolina, he became public enemy number 1. Well, not number 1. He's on the list. He's not number 1. But when you put on those disgusting colors, you are in my line of sight. So anytime I have an opportunity to rag on Bill Belichick, I am going to do it. So here is a story from Michael Rothstein on ESPN.com. Quote, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office has refused 4 trademark applications filed by North Carolina football coach Bill Belichick and his companion, Jordan Hudson, saying the phrases they attempted to trademark would cause a, quote, likelihood of confusion, end quote, with previously filed ones. The New England Patriots, Belichick's former employer, hold the rights on the trademarks Belichick and Hudson sought. In April, TCE Rights Management, with Hudson listed as its manager, filed to secure several trademarks, including these 4. Do your job, in parentheses, Bill's version. Ignore the noise, in parentheses, Bill's version. The Bellustrator, in parentheses, Bill's version. And no days off, in parentheses, Bill's version. Taking a page out of Taylor Swift's book there. The Patriots trademarked the Bellustrator in 2009, Do Your Job in 2013, and both No Days Off and Ignore the Noise in 2017. The Patent Office released the decisions last week, saying it rejected the request because, quote, it is likely consumers would be confused, mistaken, or deceived as to the commercial source of the goods and or services of the party.
No wonder he doesn't want New England people in this building. No wonder. Oh, the truth is coming out. No wonder Vrabel was like, hey, to my knowledge, he can come. Now I see, Bill. You butthurt, huh?
I'm not ringing the bell for that one. I'm putting that over here. That is not a vocabulary word. But
but we all understood what he was
exactly.
saying. We all know what you mean. But if let's just say you knew someone like Bill Belichick in your everyday life, and they started dating someone 50 years younger than them, and they started acting way out of character and being petty AF and trying to do things that are just so not like them, wouldn't you call or text that person and be like, are you okay? Like, is anybody around Belichick? I think Pablo Torre may have reported on this when he had the huge podcast about it. Are people in Bill Belichick's life checking on him? I know his sons are on the coaching staff. They probably don't want to ruffle any feathers. But like someone like a distant cousin or an uncle, like Bill.
Or a longtime coworker that goes way back, that's known him since the early days.
Right.
I knew you before you were Bill Belichick.
Right. Is somebody calling him and saying, are you okay?
College buddy.
Is something wrong? It's just... Derek used the term a series of unfortunate events earlier. That's one way to describe what's going on. But
but you love it.
I mean, I don't hate it.
You love the chaos.
I don't hate it.
They won. They won on Saturday. They beat Charlotte.
They sure did.
20-7.
But they lost. They lost because they didn't get those patents.
The game that everybody wanted to see. Oh, they saw it all right. But I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried for Bill Belichick.
No, you're not.
I mean,
as long as he wear those colors, you are not worried about.
By the way,
has the relationship stayed strong through this
like
firestorm of not getting the patents?
Seems like it.
It appears so. By the way, the Tar Heels host the Spiders of Richmond on Saturday.
It's a big one. Don't sleep on the Spiders.
When the Spiders and Tar Heels get together, you throw out the record books.
There's none.
Have they ever played Richmond?
I don't know. I'm sure they have at least once.
Oh,
basketball, probably.
Oh, man. Joey from Bellevue says Brownlee is a liability. Teams will target him. Even the broadcaster said it. Andrew from Dover says, from past experience, you have one pair of white gloves, one pair of black, so they blend into the other team's jerseys.
What about gray?
What did you do?
What about gray?
Well, with me as a receiver, it didn't matter to me. I mean, even though, but still with that, I guess, I don't think I either wore black gloves, purple or white or blue. I don't think I ever wore any like.
Were you ever called for offensive pass interference?
Was that ever? I was. They wasn't the right calls.
They were never the right calls.
It wasn't the right call.
But you didn't, not enough to get a reputation.
No, not enough to get a reputation. No, not at all.
A lot of Titans players were wearing red gear on Sunday, and it was incredibly distracting.
And this has gone on for a couple years. I'm not a fan. I've never been a fan of the
I think I'm getting to that point
added
too,
red.
Yeah,
I don't like it. I like
red.
the two blues working together and maybe a tiny accent of red.
Right.
Too much red.
If anybody else is out there who agrees with me, let me know. 615-737-1025. Cody Barton's arm sleeves.
Too much red. Way too much.
Super distracting. Too much red on each side. I just kept looking at it. I'm like, this doesn't look right.
I think Barton, Arden, Simmons, Baker, Brownlee at one point he did change after half, but he did it.
I'm surprised.
I was like, he doesn't have him because I was looking more toward the end of the game, but I had to go all the way back and I'm like, Willie, yeah, he was right. He was wearing. So you had about 6 or 7 players wearing some type of red gloves or red sleeve. Stop that.
You heard the man.
Attention to yourself. I know it looks
good
cool.
neck roll and an elbow pad.
Yeah, I know it looks cool. Take off the gloves, man. Put some tape around your hand. Put some dirt on your hand.
Get some stick and let's
go. I'm just messing with y'all, man. But the red gloves, y'all may want to stop wearing those because they do stand out.
On Derek's not list, red gloves and analytics. Things I've learned today. I love analytics. And
I love analytics
and
too.
I do watch the game and I am a nerd. But that'll do it for us today. We will be back tomorrow at 3:00. Week 3 of Silly Underdog Picks in the 5:00 hour. I'm feeling pretty good.
I know you are.
I'm sure Hal Gill is feeling pretty good as well.
Woo.
But we will.
Why did he even ask Hal to? Now it's gonna come back to haunt me.
Well, we'll get to that tomorrow
come back
in
to
the
haunt
5 o'clock hour. We will talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful day. I love you. We love you. Peace.